The Supreme Court chamber's marble walls held an atmosphere of tension as Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett took her place in front of the 9 justices. Against the rich wood of the podium, her navy blue suit stood prominent. As Justice Clarence Thomas leaned in with a stern, unyielding look, C-SPAN's cameras zoomed tightly. Ripples spread through the legal community from what ensued. "Congresswoman," Thomas uttered, his deep voice slicing sharply across the room. "Your brief I've examined 3 times, and honestly, your understanding of constitutional law seems rudimentary at best. Before speaking to this court, maybe you ought to review interpretation's basic principles." Silence descended on the chamber. Mid-keystroke, reporters halted, and the remaining 8 justices adjusted in their high-backed seats. Yet Crockett stayed calm. Her eyes slightly narrowed, notes gripped tightly as she pulled out a ready folder. "Justice Thomas," she started calmly, her voice even amid the sharp critique. "Your worry over my education I value, but over the following 5 minutes, I'll prove why your view is not just incorrect, but perilously deceptive to the public in America." Everyone was caught off guard by what followed. Defending her authority wasn't all the folder revealed upon opening, it also exposed inconsistencies in Thomas's personal judicial history, rendering the veteran justice atypically mute for maybe the initial occasion in his 30-plus years on the bench. Pause here in this remarkable dialogue to like the video and subscribe to our channel for unique in-depth political analysis unavailable elsewhere. Remember to tap the notification bell for updates on America's key political events. In his usual spot on the bench's right, Justice Clarence Thomas occupied a dominant presence after over 30 years serving on the highest court in the land. At 75 now, he had grown much more vocal lately. Once the justice who skipped questions for years in oral arguments. Now a resolute conservative voice emerged, bold and challenging any who ignored his originalist view of the Constitution. "When written, that's what the Constitution means," he had lately stated, not whatever a contemporary attorney desires it to mean now. To Thomas, this exceeded a mere case. His judicial philosophy's core principles faced a trial. With significant impacts on forthcoming elections, the voting rights matter before the court, and Thomas seemed primed for battle. Opposing him stood Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, the 42-year-old ex-civil rights lawyer hailing from Dallas. Just in her 2nd congressional year, she had earned notice as an emerging Democratic star. Defending demonstrators, contesting voter suppression statutes, and winning civil rights lawsuits throughout Texas formed her legal experience. Renowned as an adept trial attorney, she could simplify complex points for juries. Due to her expertise in southern states' voting rights, Crockett received an invitation to join this case. Representing not only her district but countless voters with ballot access on the line, she understood. "This is personal for me," she had shared with her team during prep. "Polling sites closed, voters rejected, entire communities muted, I've witnessed it. Justice Thomas might theorize constitutionally, but the actual effects I've observed directly. Nothing could raise the stakes more." Sparked by Georgia's fresh voter ID regulations in Richardson v. Election Commission, the case ignited a huge legal battle, fueling fears that hundreds of thousands, especially in minority groups, could lose voting access. Conservative justices, with Justice Thomas at the forefront, seemed set to uphold the rules as vital anti-fraud protections. Yet liberal justices saw them as barely veiled suppression methods. Tension filled the chamber's air long before arguments started. Whispers among legal watchers suggested a likely 5-4 split, with Thomas gearing up to pen a landmark voting rights opinion potentially reshaping things for years ahead. More than mere pointed comebacks, Thomas's belittling comments to Congresswoman Crockett indicated his plan to tear down her case and her standing as a legal expert. Undermining her constitutional law knowledge aimed to erode her argument's base. Unforeseen by him, Crockett had readied exactly for such tactics. His growingly aggressive manner her team had analyzed and planned against. Elevating this debate to a future law student staple, the folder in her grasp held the key materials. As Crockett gathered her thoughts, the chamber settled into awkward quiet. Toward Thomas, Justice Elena Kagan darted a brief look, one eyebrow arched. Her attention intensifying, Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson straightened up. Everyone sensed a major development brewing. "Justice Thomas," Crockett opened, her voice firm and building power. "Permit me to address your worry regarding my grasp of constitutional basics by tackling this matter's core head-on." A subtle scornful grin on his face, Thomas reclined. "Please do, Congresswoman, instruct us." His patronizing tone rang clear, prompting exchanged glances among press section journalists. Though Thomas's aggressive approach had sparked talk in legal arenas, seldom had he shown such blatant scorn for a lawyer in court. My argument rests constitutionally on the 14th Amendment's Equal Protection Clause and the 15th Amendment's voting rights safeguard irrespective of race, Crockett declared precisely. As my brief's page 34 data illustrates, the Georgia statute creates obstacles disproportionately affecting specific groups. Thomas cut in suddenly. Those amendments' content I'm well acquainted with, Congresswoman. Equal treatment they ensure, not ease. To every voter, this law applies identically. Nods came from a few conservative justices. Into his microphone, Justice Samuel Alito bent. Building on Justice Thomas's observation, identification without voting, where does the Constitution grant that right? Swiftly evolving into a united assault, the queries, Crockett held firm, despite the conservative group's clear aim to erode her stance prematurely. Respectfully, Justice Alito, she countered. Laws, though worded neutrally, cannot produce discriminatory impacts under constitutional safeguards. The proof here plainly shows. Again Thomas broke in. Data twists easily, Congresswoman. The Constitution's words cannot twist, silent on exact voter verification methods states might employ. This core difference you appear incapable of seeing. Soft gasps echoed in the gallery. Not just interrupting once more, Thomas implied evidence manipulation by her. Sensing the growing personal tone, Chief Justice John Roberts fidgeted slightly. Drawing a deep breath, Crockett, her aide passing another paper over the table. From 3 separate organizations, statistical analyses verifying the Georgia law's uneven impacts. Yet data by itself wouldn't sway Thomas, she realized. Attempting to steer back, Justice Sonia Sotomayor said, regarding rural Georgia counties' access issues in the brief, let's revisit the proof. Eyes fixed on Crockett, Thomas broke in yet again. Prior to county specifics, this basic constitutional misinterpretation we need to address. Outcome-focused logic over textual loyalty favors the Congresswoman's method. Heightening further, the strain. Evolving from standard oral arguments in a crucial voting rights suit into a straight assault on Crockett's expert standing. Later, some watchers observed Thomas's unusual emphasis on personal discredit over mere legal rebuttal. Noting the time, Crockett saw Thomas's constant breaks had eaten her minutes. Momentum needed turning. Justice Thomas, she stated solidly, her tone composed yet determined. Multiple times you've doubted my constitutional principles' knowledge. Directly responding by illustrating this court's past use of those principles seems wisest. From her folder she extracted a meticulously ready paper, finalized late by her top researcher. Its material she knew might redirect the entire debate. Ahead of these hearings, my staff and I examined all voting rights rulings you've written or supported since 1991 confirmation. Consistency in constitutional reading, not politics, was our goal in review. Barely noticeable, Justice Thomas's face changed. Intrigued by the odd tactic, the rest of the justices bent forward. In this case's light, a pattern emerges worth scrutiny, Crockett pressed on confidently. Your concurring view in Shelby County v. Holder stands out, claiming Voting Rights Act Section 5 unconstitutional from the start, not just now. His jaw clenching, Thomas. His boldest voting rights stance she targeted. Charts organized I hold here, Crockett noted, raising them, and constitutional interpretation consistency it shows might astonish all present. The courtroom hushed. Pausing even, the court stenographers. Replacing prior scorn, Justice Thomas eyed the documents in Crockett's grasp with keen focus. Congresswoman, Chief Justice Roberts cut in, eyeing the time. 10 minutes left for you. Acknowledging, Crockett. Appreciate it, Mr. Chief Justice. Sufficient to reveal Justice Thomas's judgment of my legal skills as flawed and a troubling pattern for the court to note. Fingers nodded firmly, Thomas advanced. Routine legal discourse this no longer was. Challenging his own 30-year uniformity alongside his attack on her, Crockett's upcoming points. Posture straightening, Jasmine Crockett, her voice unwavering. Utter quiet gripped the room. No paper rustles, no clerk murmurs, not a twitch from the typically fidgety media. Justice Thomas, she initiated, elementary you called my constitutional law knowledge. Examining your voting rights applications of those principles is my reply. On the podium she set a paper, angling its timeline for Justice's view. Your stances from 1991 onward. This review follows. Originalist consistency you profess proves hard to square with the trend. Face impassive but fingers drumming the bench lightly, a uncommon discomfort sign, Thomas. Joining the ruling in Crawford v. Marion County 2008, you backed Indiana's voter ID statute for election security despite scant fraud proof. In your 2013 dissent in Arizona v. Intertribal Council, however, federal rules yielded to state power, flipping your federal-state authority position. To the following page she turned. This standout inconsistency, though. She persisted strongly. Shelby County v. Holder saw you deem preclearance in the Voting Rights Act unconstitutional sans current data justifying differential state treatment from past bias. Eyes meeting Thomas, she halted briefly. Last term's Allen v. Milligan dissent dismissed present discrimination proof, saying Voting Rights Act couldn't touch racial gerrymandering constitutionally. Meaning data, past or present, irrelevant, clashing with Shelby County logic. Murmurs quietly spread in the chamber. Forward leaned Justice Kagan. At Thomas, Justice Kavanaugh peeked. Revealing these inconsistencies are, Crockett declared, her tone strengthening. The Constitution unchanged holds the issue not. Selective principle use for desired results does. Face shadowing, Thomas. Toward his mic he bent, but Chief Justice Roberts lifted a hand gently, signaling no breaks in timed speech. Criticism alone didn't bring me, Crockett went on. Voting rights defense did. To our case, let's tie this now. A blue folder she raised. Contained within, 173 Georgia voters' sworn statements, eligible yet vote denied wrongly. Including 86-year-old Mrs. Dorothy Wilson, voting every election since 1956. Rejected for ID married name mismatch with outdated role's maiden name. Photo displayed by Crockett, elderly black lady clutching license and voter card. Jim Crow born, King Marcher Mrs. Wilson, yet 2024 poll worker barred her over paperwork mistake. Slight shift on Thomas's face, emotions initial crack in his stoic front. Constitutional meaning stays fixed, Justice Thomas, we concur there. Race-based vote denial the 15th Amendment bans clearly. Laws yielding Mrs. Wilson and thousands similar disenfranchised, while white heavy districts spare such hurdles. Exactly the wrong the framers aimed to block. To the entire bench Crockett pivoted. Elementary my constitutional law grasp isn't. Real Americans' lives root it. Abstract drills weren't the Constitution's purpose. People like Mrs. Wilson it shields. The affidavit she slammed down on the podium. Respectfully, Justice Thomas, truly basic is claiming neutral-faced laws provably stripping citizens' rights evade constitutional safeguards. Discriminatory results somehow aligning with intent, that notion. Hush returned to the courtroom. Notes jotted hastily by several justices. Nearly imperceptible smile from Justice Jackson. Discomfort on Justice Alito. Earlier scorn gone, Thomas advanced with keen focus. Congresswoman, he spoke, tone altered noticeably. Inconsistency you charge me with. But might your legal stances over years face similar critique? Earnest inquiry, not slam, fit for legal peers. Head bowing politely, Crockett. Valid point, Justice Thomas. Indeed, lives' impacts have evolved my views. Absolute originalist fidelity I don't tout as my foundation. Mrs. Wilson's poll rejection openly influenced my 15th Amendment view. The affidavit she brandished. Not theories these. Fundamental right denial for U.S. citizens. Elementary reasoning if voting defense seems so, maybe more of it this court needs. Reclining, Thomas, expression blank. Ridicule's prior hint vanished. Career first perhaps, words escaped him briefly. Throat clearing, Chief Justice Roberts. Time up, Congresswoman Crockett. Thanks. Notes collecting, Crockett, and rare act occurred. Subtle yet clear nod from Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson. Surprisingly more, Justice Kavanaugh whispered to Justice Barrett, both thoughtful not scornful. Georgia State's lawyer approached for rebuttal but shifted the room's feel. Earlier conservative assurance swapped for clear doubt. Undermining Crockett's authority Thomas started, but wholly reversed it became. Directly confronting a top court influencer, the Congresswoman not just held but flipped his logic and words back. Seat returning, Crockett, journalists dashed out, story-breaking eager. Day-defining already, this talk, regardless of ruling. Adjournment minutes later, online posts debuted. CNN legal tweeter, unprecedented Congresswoman counters Justice Thomas post legal savvy doubt. Directest justice challenge in my 20 SCOTUS years. Phone buzzing endlessly by Crockett's exit. Trending fast, hashtag Jasmine Crockett Thomas hashtag elementary. Planned stories dropped by big networks for this analyst-termed court historic clash. Marble steps thronged by media. Expected Thomas questioning your credentials, Congresswoman. Yelled one. Answering after pause, Crockett. Voting rights defense, not CV, was my prep. Tough queries anticipated, team readied yes. Decision impact from your talk. Another queried. Prediction not mine, careful Crockett. Constitutional grounds guide justices, not orals. Facts I laid out. Team office later, mood unrestrained. Clerk shared with chief advisor, post-arguments conference, Thomas mute. Unheard of. Voting cases he leads with position always. Viral by nightfall, clips. Crockett's Thomas rulings timeline moment, 7M plus views platform-wide. Transcripts added to must-reads by profs, scholars all sides commented, Crockett's skill praised issue aside. Harvard's Lawrence Tribe tweet, agree or not conclusions, remarkable lawyering Crockett displayed. Justice record for consistency query, peak advocacy. Blog post by conservative Jonathan Turley, outcome oppose I, yet Thomas voting opinions review by Crockett reveals originalists must face pattern honestly. Experts booked rush in newsrooms for exchange breakdown. Fox panel conservatives, some Thomas defend, others Crockett sharp concede. Personal no, logic of philosophy via own rulings, she hit fair, precise one said. MSNBC's Neil Katyal, SCOTUS arguer many, astonishing today. Direct justice challenge rare for advocates. Thomas dismissiveness confronted Crockett, plus record contradictions hard ignore laid. White House sidestepped, Secretary, debate robust bolsters democracy per president. Quiet backing calls from admin highs to Crockett office, sources said backstage. Front pages next day nationwide. NYT, rare SCOTUS clash, Thomas consistency on voting rights queried by Congresswoman. Wall Street Journal, Supreme drama, Thomas judicial uniformity worries raised by Crockett measured reply. Voting rights law apps surged law schools, civil groups donations boomed. Crockett inspired many, Mrs. Wilson defense at all chances and hurdles both for Crockett post-event. Interview sought by all big networks. Keynote invites from con law meets. House Dem judiciary leadership buzz for her, but exposure drew examination. Past legal record scoured by right media for flips. Office nearby security upped post online threats. 3 weeks post-orals, decision buzz growing, Howard U Law students addressed by Crockett. Courtroom event beyond Thomas or me, packed room told. Law's real people impact versus theory, legal system advance. All Americans protect or narrow fits only, Constitution living. Q&A student, Thomas voting views change thank you from talk. Smiling Crockett. Philosophy shift for Justice Thomas the first doubt, but court-wide gap reckon theory versus experience hope. Originalism or living, Mrs. Wilson indifferent. Vote right hers matters.